Today is Friday, March 8th, 2024. My name is Crispin Brooks. I am interviewing Sarah Norlander on behalf of the USC Shoah Foundation. The interview is taking place in San Gabriel, California, in the United States of America. The language of the interview will be English. Please state your name.
My name is Sarah Norlander.
And what was your name at birth?
My name at birth was Sarah Hendrika Louise Rahamen. They changed it later on in Raymond. But I have to explain you why that is. At the time, it was my family, my dad and his whole family comes from Singapore. At the time, it was very hard for them to get a job if you had a foreign name. So they kind of changed it to an English sound name. So Raymond. My dad and my two uncles. The problem with that was, it was only by mouth, and it didn't really fall to on paper official. So later on we got problems with that. But originally it's Rahamin, my maiden name. And then.
And in terms of your first name and your middle names, was there any special significance to those names? Were you named after anyone?
My first name was after my grandmother from my dad's side. And my Hendrika Louise was from my Dutch side, from my mother's side, from her mother.
And did you have any other names?
No, Norlander is my married name, yeah.
Please tell us, when were you born?
I was born on January the 6th, 1935, in Palembang, Indonesia.
Please tell us about your father.
My father was British subject, who was born in Singapore, and so what I just stated before, they changed the name for new jobs, to get jobs, so it didn't seem to work very well. So they went from Singapore to Indonesia for jobs. He is a trained medical, and I don't know how you have to compare it with here, but he was very independent. He worked in hospitals. He also had his own pharmacy and made his own medicine. And so, yeah, he did more stuff in between.
And when you think of him, what pictures come into your head?
Strength, determination, that comes into my head. Both my parents were very strong. I never saw my mom crying or anything. I mean, we always said she should have been a man. She was very strong. She has an iron will. And so that was my two people that are, as far as that goes, looked up to.
Can you tell me a little bit about what you know about the history of your father's family? How did they come to be in Singapore, for example? Were they from there originally, or?
Yeah, they were in Singapore. What I hear now, I don't know if that is true, but my my granddad came from Palestine. I don't know if it was a joke, but my dad always said he went with the camel drivers to from Palestine. He went, I don't know, alone, but he went then to Singapore and built up a pretty good, I wouldn't say empire, but they were very independent and they were very well to do. Because my granddad was a broker, and so they married there with my grandmother, Sarah Baruch, who I think originally came from England. And that's what I know, that I've been told. And so the whole family was actually settled over there in Singapore.
Was it a big family?
Very big family. I think he had actually 22 brothers and sisters. They didn't all stay alive, but it was a big family, very big family. I have family all over the world. All over the world. Cousins in New York that I don't know. Here in California that I don't even know. I know in Australia there are my family members living in Australia. They left, when the war ended. We had a chance going to Australia. It was free, British, because we were British subjects. So a part of my family went to Australia. A part went to Holland. So we all spread out actually.
Do you have any memories of meeting any of the kind of the Singapore branch of the family?
Not a Singapore branch, but my aunt, his sister of my dad, was also in Indonesia, and so her part of the family went to, not all of them, a few cousins went to Australia, and I knew them.
And
we were in the camps together. Yeah.
And what was her name?
Kitty. I don't know her married name. I know her Kitty.
And tell us about your mother and what you know of her family.
My mother's family, I don't know a whole lot of. There was not that. I just a piece of paper here from her that I found. But so my granddad, her father came from Amsterdam. He was born in Amsterdam. Went to Indonesia to fight in the war that they had, the Aceh War, very famous one. And he got married there. I don't know if it was, I think my children, I think she was probably part Indonesian, but we don't know. My mom never really talked about it. And so they had 3 kids, my mom and her 2 brothers. And when, I don't know if she died or because divorce was not usual in those times, in that period, right? But he got the second wife, and his second wife didn't want to take care of his children of his first, so they put them all in orphanage, like my 2 uncles and my mom. So that's what but I don't know a whole lot of her part, not much.
Do you know them? What was your mother's name, by the way?
Maiden name, De Haan, Johanna De Haan. Yeah.
And her first names?
Johanna Hendrika De Haan. Yeah.
And her brothers and sisters, your uncles?
I name one uncle is Cor, and they all passed, of course, and Willem. But Uncle Willem was captured by the Japanese, put on a ship for going to, but they torpedoed the ship, so they all died on sea.
And what happened to Uncle Cor
Died,
also?
all died. Yeah,
Do you have any memories of them?
never met them. I met Uncle Cor, her older brother, one of her brothers. They live in Indonesia, in Jakarta. Yeah.
And can you tell me about your brothers and sisters? What are their names, first of all?
So I got my older brother was Isaac. My second was Benjamin, Alex Joseph. Then me, and then I have a younger brother, and my sister who died in the camps.
And what was her name?
Helena, Helena Allen.
And do you know the names of your grandparents at all?
My grandmother Sarah, so my granddad is Isaac. The name of my mother's father was Cornelis. That's her mother, I don't know much about. Louisa, I think, yeah.
And in the early part of your life, before the war began, can you talk a little bit about your earliest memories of family life?
My earliest memories was in Palermo, before the war started, right. I was probably 5, 6 years, but I always tell my friends, I think I had a photographic memory at the time because I remember so much stuff that I'm actually sometimes amazed that I remember that, you know.
Tell us some of those photographs that are in your mind. What do you see?
We were right there. I remember that just before the war started. No, early on actually. I remember I was much younger and we used to live in Pasarkota. That is in Palermo. That is actually a neighborhood that were all a lot of Chinese traders and you know, they had all the stores. And I remember when I was small that old Chinese man, you know, sitting in the easy chair, and I had these water pipes. It seemed all I hear is I still can see myself standing there, amazed that I heard that water boiling in the. I don't know what it was. Later on, I found out it was probably opium or something. But that was normal there. They did it all out on the street, you know, on the sidewalk. I was always amazed by that and fascinated, you know. Very long pipes, and I think they did something in there. I don't know what it was. And you see him dozing off. Now I know what it is. But that was my early memory.
What other pictures come to you from
Yeah,
those times?
I see that in front of me, you know, the old man, all wrinkled up, enjoying half asleep.
And what about your home? Where did you live?
We used to live there. We used to live at Pasarkota. We used to live up, and my dad had his pharmacy underneath. It was an old home, very old. All the cracks and all that. It was spooky. And I remember I was always afraid to stay alone up to go to bed, you know. I waited with my dad. I always saw mad people in my, I don't know what it was. It was like shadows. I don't know if I invented it, but I did see that in my So I was screaming, and so my dad would always. My dad was always my savior. So that was scary. So we stayed there. Then I don't know exactly what happened to the pharmacy. I know he made his own medicine, and I still have the books with all his recipes and all what he made and I still have all that.
And who were his clients? Who were his customers?
People, yeah, because he was allowed to do that, you know, as long as it was nothing to do with opium. You could see that there, no opium or whatever, drugs, but it was just medicine. Yeah, I remember that, you know, I don't know what it was, but they had these old-fashioned green bottles where they used to put the stuff in, and it's not now like in plastic or whatever, but I still see it in my mind's eye, you know. And so one part of it was forbidden because it was dangerous with all the chemicals and all. So yeah, my mom was in a store in pharmacy, and dad, and we had a very trusted help there. His name was Min. I don't know exactly where he came from, but Min, he was very loved. Yeah, I got a picture of him also.
What did he do?
He would help mom and dad with everything, you know. And then we had we call her Ama. It's like mom. She was more the Ama of my brother Ben. You know, we call her always that. So she was more in the family, and Ben was her everything.
Why him particularly?
I don't know. It was just he was drawn to them. She was also helping my mom with us. So, yeah, we just all love her. We saw her back after the war. Benny found her back after the war. Yeah, that was very, very funny. He was going to, like a kermis. You know what a kermis is? Okay, something like that. And all of a sudden, he was with his bicycle. I don't know if he recognizes her or if she did. All of a sudden, they were hugging each other. He put her on her bicycle and back and brought us home. It was so fun.
That was in Palembang, or
That was later on after the war in Bandung. But in Palembang, that's what I remember from Ama, and always caring for us, helping my mom. I remember she had to go to the market and buy crab, but I don't know what she did. Her finger got caught. So with the crab, she was running home. My dad had to help it. So that's those things I remember. Yeah.
do you remember any meal times or particular foods from that time you
Food,
would
my
grow?
mom, not, she cooked all. Crab was one thing. Curry. It was always. Other than that, no. Just normal rice, of course, right? Vegetables and meat or whatever. Yeah. And my dad would never eat outside. Ever. He just was always my mom had to take care of him. Never a restaurant, never. He wouldn't eat, but people at home, I don't know what it was. I think because kosher, I mean, he doesn't eat pork, of course. Yeah. Could be them.
I was thinking about your father. He was born and raised in Singapore and must have spoken English.
Oh, different languages.
Tell me about the languages he spoke.
He spoke Malaysia, of course. He spoke English, Hindustan, with his mom. Hebrew, fluent, Chinese, 2 languages, because you have to do it in Singapore.
But it must have been a change for him to move to a Dutch.
He had problems with Dutch. Dutch was not his strongest language, kind of difficult for him. You know what you're saying. Later on, of course, of all the years, but fluent, he's not that good in Dutch. No, you know what you're saying. Like for instance, my aunt, who also lived there, never spoke a word of Dutch. It was always English. So some people just seem to,
But she was able to get by?
she had children, of course. I got 8 cousins, 1 all female and 1 male, Archie. So they spoke Dutch. They went to Dutch schools and all that. But the old folks, for instance, my uncle never spoke Dutch either. This is a brother of my dad. Always English. He gave English lessons, but he never spoke Dutch.
So, what language did you and your family speak at home?
When we grew up, when I was small, it was English. It was all, my aunts, my dad, it was all in Singapore. It was just, so it comes easy, but it was English.
Did your mum speak English?
Yeah,
Okay.
she spoke English. She was very clever. And, but then, during the war, the first camp we were in, it was not really a camp, it was a school that had boarded up. It was all English people, everybody. It was only English. So, you had to speak the language, I'm thinking. Later on, it was more Dutch because the camps were bigger, other parts of the country, schools, there were not English schools at the time, we went to Dutch schools. So you the English became a little bit the language on the background, but it always kind of sound very familiar. Yeah, I still make mistakes in it.
How about, were there any local languages in Indonesia that you spoke?
I spoke Indonesian. Yeah, I spoke it. But out now for over 50 years. Kind of a little bit forget. But I try to get it up again on phone, different languages. So I try to get it up, speak a little bit.
Are there people in Los Angeles you could speak it with?
No, I don't speak to anybody. I don't know them actually. Yeah.
And you mentioned the house in Pasakota.
Pasakota.
Were there other houses that you moved to after that?
Oh, a lot of them. But there was one house, and I think, I'm not quite sure if it was before Pasakota or after, so that I don't know. I remember there was an old spooky house, and I mean spooky.
More spooky than the Pasakota house?
Yeah, absolutely. It was very, very. There was right there was no, I forgot the word. Cemetery. So it was an old cemetery. It was really. Indonesia is sometimes a little. You really have to go very spooky. You have to know what you're doing there. So that I remember them. I remember that my older brother stepped on a bamboo skewer or whatever that, with that, and it broke off. So it broke off in this bit. So what they do there, of course, we try to put it out, but they take a piece of wood and they burn it, and then they put it in water. It's still hot, and they put it on top of it. That is for to against infections. Against infections. So finally, my dad, I mean, he's medical trained, he got that thing out. But that's always stayed with me. I'm still scared for all that bamboo stuff.
And what part of Palembang, what neighborhood was this in?
But that was what?
Which neighborhood of Palembang was this house in?
Yeah, I don't remember the neighborhood. That was I was much younger then, but that was the only. I don't remember where the. But we moved there quite a lot also. The house, the last house we moved to, and we had to flee from, was on Talang Semut. I think I remember that, Talang Semut. And
What did it look like?
just not much really. It was just, there was no luxury or something. A tiny little home with a white picket fence. I got this picture there for you. But that's where I remember that was the last house. And that's, I always used to run away, open the gate, and then walk the banks of the Musi, huge, huge river. It's almost like a, like a sea, it was so huge, Or not on, and it was infested with crocodiles and snakes. It was wild. Apes were climbing, dancing, jumping from one street to another when I was growing up there. Make all this noise. So I used to walk there. One day I walked down and I saw those 8 little puppies that they threw in the river to drown them. I don't know how I managed by myself, but there is a certain grass that grows long. It's very strong. So I could I went down the river, and with the stick I got all those dogs out. I remember that. I mean, I could have been eaten by it was really bad there. And also the snakes, full of snakes. It was kind of a rough time at that time.
You
Now,
weren't afraid of the enemy?
I don't know. I wasn't thinking about that. I saw those dogs. So I had a stick and I got them all out, walk home with them. And I used to sit on the floor. My mom would give me my food with all my dogs around it. And the one thing I would never forget. When the war started, we had to leave all animals. So it was hard because we were in the rickshaw. We were the last that left. And those dogs, well, I guess they felt it. They were kind of crying and running, trying to catch up with this one. Something I will never forget. Yeah. That is kind of imprinted in my soul. Terrible, that was really terrible. It was a whole bunch of them. Later on we heard that right after we left, a bomb fell in the house. was hard to get away there because the whole town was. Do you remember seeing the smokes when they had here in Kuwait when they burned all those? That's what happened there. And we couldn't leave before then. My mom was working at custom, and my dad was working at the police as an interpreter. I still see this policeman coming in and says, Raymond, if you leave, you'll be shot to death because you're considered a traitor, and your wife too. So we couldn't leave till the end. The Japanese were all over already. And the town was burning. It was burning because the Dutch, what they did, on purposely, they best burn all the oil so that the Japanese couldn't get it in their hands. So, smoke. We went, it was hard where we went. We had to go to the harbor, it was quite a way. So we had the last tiny little boat, like a tugboat. We had to go from there to a bigger one. Everything was in fire. Smoke, you couldn't see anything.
Can I, before we talk about that and getting on the boat and leaving Palembang and Sumatra, can I go back a little bit and ask you a few more questions about your life before the war?
Sure.
Because you were telling us about the neighborhood and walking along the river and the crocodiles and the snakes and the rescuing the puppies. Can you, next to the house in Talang Semut, do you remember your neighbors at all?
Across from us was a Chinese family that lived to us. We had neighbors that were working in the police, by the police. That's all I know. I forgot their names. It was just in a normal little area, you know. It was not much, no luxury homes, so it was just.
Were there other sort of Dutch people in the neighborhood or non-Indonesians?
Yeah, it was mixed. It was all mixed. Yeah. Do I have to tell you, I had also a cousin living there. My oldest cousin, that is the oldest daughter from my uncle. So she was there. She moved because her husband was stationed there. He was by the army. And so she was living there. I remember that he had to leave because it was dangerous when the Japs were. You know, the Japanese were all over already. They were like barbers, they were infiltrated all over. So when the war started, all of a sudden they took their working clothes out and their officers and all that stuff. I remember that. So for my cousin it was dangerous. So he had to, I don't know where he had to go.
What was his name?
It was Charles Briet. Yeah, Charles.
And was he on your mother's side of the family? Or
No, my cousin was on my father's side. Yeah. My name is Sarah also. Yeah. So my cousin was there with the baby and she had to get out of there because there was nobody that could help her. She was alone because the man had to leave her. So my dad brought her, in the car, the last plane. It was a secretive airport that they had miles and miles into the, I don't know the name of it. I can look it up, but I don't know by heart now. But so I remember my My dad, my mom, me, my cousin, of course, with their baby. She had two. I have to think now. Yeah, she had one baby and two little kids, two little ones. So my dad couldn't leave her alone by herself, nobody there. So we got my rent a car because my dad didn't drive, and we drove for miles and miles. The secretive airport that she got was the last plane that left. So she was in Bandung, we were still in Sumatra. And not long after that, it was getting really, really bad. We had to, so I remember my dad.
So, Sarah, just before we get on to the invasion in 1942, can I ask a couple of things just to finish off talking about your life before the war? Do you have any memories, or what do you know of your family's religious observance, connection
Well,
to
my
Judaism, for
dad was
example?
Jewish, of course, and he came from a very Orthodox Jewish family. My mom was not Jewish, so she became Jewish because, my brother was born and he had to be in synagogue, circumcision, and so also for my grandmother to honor her. So but originally she was kind of Protestant, but so that's that.
Did you observe holidays or go to synagogue? Or?
Not they did, but I don't remember that as a child. Now later on we did it at my aunt's home, the holidays. But I was not really raised in the Jewish because there was war and nobody observed there. But I remember.
I'm thinking before the war. What kind of were there birthdays or holidays or particular things you remember celebrating?
The holidays before the war.
Any holidays?
Yeah, no, I don't remember that. I don't think my birthday was ever celebrated. So we never celebrated my birthday. So I don't remember that. Yeah.
And I wanted to ask, did you start school before the war broke out?
School, most of it I taught myself because after the war, now I have to go to schools. The only schools there were the Catholic schools at the time, and it was not really, they didn't have everything that I needed. They were all nuns. I didn't like them. And so I didn't really learn a lot in school because we were already so much older. The classes were only half a year. And in that half a year, we had a lot of Catholic holidays. They were off. Plus the so-called vacations. I always think I probably have 3 years that I in school. I taught myself a lot of it. I taught myself reading, writing. I did all by myself. Nobody was there. I taught a lot of it myself. Because in school I didn't learn much. And math, I hate math. I don't know anything about it.
Back in Palembang, before the war, I imagine the dominant religion at that time, or in Indonesia, is Islam, right?
Islam, yeah.
Do you have any memories of?
Yeah, I do have memories. I remember like we had this, how do you call this? Church? Not
Mosque.
Mosque. Right where our house was, in the back of it. I think every 6 o'clock so, they go up the imam, and then he would sing or pray. But the way they did it, it made me so scared. I don't know what it is. I was scared to death. That I remember so well. That was in the last house that we stayed before the war, before we had to flee. That's all I remember from that though. And then the walking on the banks, you know. Friends, no. My cousin came a lot, of course. I was a lot with her, by her, and not much members from school. No, there was no school. I was nothing.
Did you and your brothers like hang out with local kids?
My brothers did, yeah, but my brother was, my older brother was 7 years older than I am, and my second brother was 5 years. So they had the friends and from the community there, you know. And I remember that we had this shoe store there, Bata. I think it was an American shoe store. I'm not quite sure, but it was cheap. So very cheap shoes. So they just got new shoes. There was like how do you call it now? Like cat shoes, we call it. And so because they were, my brothers were rough guys, so we were also kicking stones and all that, and so they just had new shoes. There were holes in it now, so they didn't dare to come home. So they went to my cousin and said, "We cannot come home. Can you help us?" So my cousin would help them, and that's what I remember. Yeah, Bata. I will remember that Bata. A lot of Indonesia we had those stores of Bata. There was affordable shoes. Yeah.
What did you have any sense as a child of what was going on in the bigger world in terms of politics and then what became war in Europe and
I hear from my parents talking. That was when I was older. Just actually it started before the war already. That something was going on, and there was this atmosphere that people almost like sometimes way there was a time here that they were like that here, like scared, but you know, like when we had the what was it now? What was the disease we had? The people dying so much. Then we just had the mask on and all that. That kind of an atmosphere, you know. And I hear my dad talking and my mom talking and her friends, so you kind of pick it up. And then, yeah, that was my memory that I know.
one of the question I should have asked earlier, but growing up as a young girl in your family and in Palembang, what would the expectations have been for you for your future?
I don't think, because I left early there. I was like 5, 6 years old when we had to flee. So Palembang, uh, I don't think we had expectations there. It was such a chaos, completely, that life, that was the only thing, to stay alive. But there was no, you don't think of what might have or can happen. We had to flee. There was the last boat, I told you, was a little tugboat. And finally we got to we were got to the harbor where the bigger boat was brought us to Java. So the last boat, we were all waiting for the boat to come. So we all had to sleep on the open sky. Rain was falling down. Just on wood, on how do you call it, you know, by the harbor, there, all outside, because we didn't have wanted to miss the boat. And then finally the boat comes, and we were trying to get the boat. They didn't want us in. They said, well, my mom was working at custom. She said, so this woman said, your mom, she said, you can, but your husband and your children can't get on the boat. So I see my mom trying, you know, pushed her away and pushed us on the boat, and it was chaos. Everybody tried to get on the boat. That was my memory of that. Once we were on the boat, we were on the river, big river. They start saying the Japanese torpedoed in some kind of boat. So I remember we had a vest, a few of them. So everybody had. We didn't have. We just up on the boat. My mom took her, tied us up together, all together, so that if something happened, at least we were together, so we were not spread out. I remember that. It was scary. Yeah, watching what happened to us.
Do you have any idea how your parents were able to arrange getting on the boat?
Yeah, that was it. It was just fighting together. This woman didn't want us there. Only from the Coven, they call them. Coven. I don't know exactly what that, if that is an abbreviation of something, I don't know. But my mom said, oh, you get away. My family's going with me. That was the only thing with it.
Did you know anyone else on the boat?
No, there was nobody knew it. It was all running to get on the boat. That was the last boat that we know of. So we went there in Java, and then we had to wait. Where are we going? We don't know anybody. And it was a Chinese family, a very, very rich lady.
Where in Java did you go?
So we went to Bandung, but we stopped at Jakarta. That was where she was.
Do you remember the rest of the journey, the boat journey? Anything that you
I
remember?
was scared. All I know was scared. And I don't know how long it took. I have no clue. Because it's quite a way from Palembang going to Java. So we had to dock in Jakarta. And no, nobody we know that can take us. There are no organization that will take care of you. We're just for your own. You have to fight for your own.
And what did you have with you? What did you take
Oh,
with
a
you?
bundle. Just a bundle. When we left, just a bundle of stuff. And a few pictures that I have is also given by friends that had it. Just a bundle. We had to leave everything. Everything. Yeah, that was all. I remember the bundle. We could take anything with you. So we were in Jakarta, and this Chinese lady was very, very rich, had a huge home. She took all these people in. Yeah. Mrs. Quay. Wonderful lady. Wonderful. It was like heaven. I will never forget. You know, that's why I get so mad when people are discriminating against Chinese or people, good people all over the world. You shouldn't do that. This woman was so good to us. Good, yeah. Fed us, clothed us, everything. And from there on, we had to take a train going to Bandung. But we had no money, nothing. So that's a go on a train.
How long did you stay with Mrs. Quay?
Not long. Until everybody was actually had their place to go. My dad went to his brother in Bandung. They didn't know we were coming even, but there we were. So that was quite the experience. Yeah. Of course, you had my mom and dad didn't have money. We had 5 kids, so that was really hard. And my dad, they come from good families, I mean, good schooling and everything. But he just had to take a job that provided the family some food. So what he did was hard because it was war, right? The Japanese were not quite in Bandung yet. So he was delivering bread everywhere to get some money. And my mom was cooking at home, and my brothers would sell it. That's how we got money. And we were at an aunt's home then.
Do you remember doing that?
I remember, yeah.
You would go and sell bread too?
No, you mean to sell it? No. My 2 older brothers. Yeah, my mom would get up early in the morning, 2 or 3 o'clock, start the food, and then sometimes they come home with the food, people don't buy. And it was more difficult as time progresses because the men were already taken in the concentration camp. They were the first one. Before that, yeah. Because my brother was still with us. Later on, my older brother, my dad, my uncle, they were the first one of them. So we were all women in the home.
How long, in this period when you were selling bread, how long was it before the Japanese arrived in Bandung?
That was already, because their camp started, I think the first camp of my dad was the 15th battalion, that was how they call it, and then with the other camps, yeah. So they took the men first, and then later on, they took us. They put us on the train. But first of all, they boarded us home. We was not supposed to buy food or anything. Nothing. We were not supposed to go out. So our neighbors from in the back of us would throw food over the wall. That's what yeah.
Do you remember when they came and got your father and brothers? When they took them away?
I don't exactly know when it was. It was a few months before they took us.
Do you remember when they came?
Yes, it was middle of the night. Yeah. All with weapons and all. Yeah.
And who came?
And they couldn't say hi to us either. It was not allowed. Yeah. So.
How did that feel for you?
They took my uncle, my brother, and my dad first. And we were all women. And we were scared because my cousins were beautiful looking. We were so afraid. Soldiers, yeah, we were so afraid. Beautiful cousins. That was scary.
So what happened after the men had gone, the men?
We went to transport, they stayed in Bandung. We went to Jakarta. They put us on a train.
But before Jakarta, you were in a place called Lengkong?
Kleine Lengkong. That was the first camp. It was not really a camp. It was a school that boarded up. There were all English people. People they were working in the P&T plantation, tea and all that, all English speaking. So they were all prominent people. They were all put in one, yeah. Then I had a wonderful friend there, Mrs. Jackson. Yeah, she always took me on her back and we would hop through the camp and it was always singing together. It was 4 o'clock. There was this tiny little tree. That's good. English people do that fantastic. They're all gathered and we're all singing together, you know. All this, oh my God, every day, every day. She was the one that brought life in the camps. She was fantastic, yeah. And she was very close to me because she had a daughter by the name Sarah. She lost it out. So that's the reason she said. Definitely. Yeah. She was my best friend. Mrs. Jackson. Yeah. I was 6, I think, 7. Yeah. Yeah. She taught me a lot singing, kind of gymnastic, jumping jacks. Yeah, that was fun memories of her. Later on, we had to go to other camps. We went to from the Klein Lancome was in Bandung, and then they transported us to Jakarta. So there were bigger camps, thousands of people. So we lost touch because everybody went in different barracks and all that. So I lost touch with them.
And are there any other memories of your time in Kleine Lancome?
Kleine Lancome, yeah, the fun part was with Mrs. Jackson singing and gymnastic and what I did there, I got caught by one of the security guards that was there. I was stealing wood because they didn't give us enough wood. So I was stealing wood so they caught me. I had to go to the office, stand for hours in the corner, and finally Japanese officer came. We were under supervision of Indonesians in Kleine Lancome, and they were mean.
Was it the police? Who
No,
was it?
No, these were Indonesians. Yeah, I don't know where they got them from. It was all supervised by Indonesians. We are high hopes, we call it also. There were guards, and because they all of a sudden felt they had power, because the Dutch were losing in camps and all that, and now they were fighting for their independence. So therefore they had a lot of power over us, which they did.
So you were telling us about the Indonesians who were guarding you in Kleine Lancome.
Kleine Lancome, yes. So I got punished by them. I had to stand for hours in the corner, and so the Japanese officer came, and he said, "Let her go." So that was it. That was my. It was scary actually, because you don't know what they're gonna do to you. It can slap you around. But no, they were not easy, and we got in the beginning. When we were in Kleine Lancome, I remember that in the beginning, I think the first week, we had fantastic food. I'm not kidding you. It was meat, eggs, everything. But the ladies, the English ones, they were starting to complain. That, do we get this, I don't know what they were used to. Well, the next day, off, no more. So what they gave us was rice mixed with, what is it now? But binds it like, it's like glue, it kind of binds, with tempura like kind of thing, So they give you, though the rice was raw inside, And then what I did is, they measured the rice exactly. So you get less actually because people start stealing from the kitchen. And that was it, because they would start complaining. And maizena, all that stuff, so the food was terrible after that. But my mom is clever. It was a time that you can still kind of try to make, I don't know where she got the money from or whatever she did. She made her own cooking. So she make always Dutch pancakes. And where the money from, I don't know, but they bought it. So my mom bought eggs and this and made her own. And this is how we got extra good food. My mom was clever, very clever. Yeah. Always thinking, cooking. Yeah. You know, you're surprised what people can do. I mean, it's really, where did they get the stuff from? I mean, money, and because you couldn't get it. And what they did is also we call it gedekken. They call it gedekken. So people that managed to still take their jewelry, we had nothing. Jewelry, they would sell it to the it's a gedek. It's like from bamboo, but it's easy to kind of poke a hole, and on the other side there's usually high holes, so not very trusted. So they would but they get so much percentage of it, so people get money, buy stuff with the jewelry, and they get it in. That's how people can think about it. Yeah.
Who or what were the high hos?
They were the Indonesian soldiers. They were not really soldiers, but they were, they were had to guard us. Yeah, they the high ho.
And what does that word mean? Where does it come from?
I don't know. I think it's Indonesian high ho. I'm not quite sure. It could be Japanese. Yeah.
And where did you go next, and how did you get there?
Okay, so from that camp, so they had everybody sat on the train. We went to Jakarta. There's we went to 6 camps. Camp. So we started in Tangerang. Tangerang was officially where they kept murderers. It was under the Dutch then. Was a prison, big prison. So murderers, terrible cases, that's where they. But one part was still where they were there. So they were imprisoned by the Dutch. They kept in there. And then we were kept in one part. And sometimes, whether you believe it or not, even though that these people were imprisoned by Dutch, they would help us sometimes. Yes, they were, with getting food in. And when they get caught, the punishment is terrible because you can see that there was hardly and you can hear them. What they did is, they filled them up with water, so they blow up, and then they would stand on them. So they would yell and scream from the pain. It's right there. I mean, I get goosebumps when I think about it. It's terrible how people can be that. That's how they got punished. But those managed to still help us. You would think they would have a hatred for us, would you think? Yeah, they would still help us.
Do you remember any interactions with any of those prisoners?
They, they would come, in the beginning, they had this barrels, big barrels, and they would come, they carried on their shoulders with hot boiling water and make tea. It was in the beginning, that's the only, but I remember seeing them coming in. But nobody talks to them really. And they put that. There was, in the very beginning, later on everything was no tea, no nothing. So we were in Tangerang then.
And what?
Tangerang, I don't know how long we stayed there. A few months, I think.
Well,
I
and
wrote it down.
what would a regular day have been like in Tangerang?
Yeah, you have to get up early, always standing, always Japanese counting. Each knee, song, see, go, and it went on and on and on. You had to bow it up and down. I mean, sometimes a Tangerang went on terrible. Do you want to drink something?
So you were telling us about Tangerang.
We had a lot of bedbugs. There was a lot of bedbugs. They had one part was all bags on stilts of bamboo, and the bedbugs goes into the bamboo, and it was terrible. I was bleeding from the top of my head. I could see this all open. This is all open from that. I had scratched my legs with bamboo, sharp. Oh, it felt so good. I didn't feel the pain when I opened up my leg, but the bites of the bugs, it was just, I had head lice. I had all these horrible bed bugs. I was bleeding all over. Scars from that bleeding. That was what I remember. And then what I remember, all of a sudden, people would be scared, and what the Kampitai would come. You know, the Kampitai is the police, the you can call it, you can compare it with the Gestapo, same.
The Japanese.
Yeah. So all of a sudden cars come in, officers oh my God, the Kampitai. Everybody started scared. And so all of a sudden, everybody go out. Everything was checked again. The clothes were, if you had a mattress, everything was opened up to see if you hide jewelry or anything. I mean, when the Kampitai comes, people are scared. I mean, that's the worst. That's what I remember in Tangerang.
What were they looking for? Do you know? What were the Kempitai looking for?
Jewelry, mainly. Jewelry. They needed it, they said, for the planes or something. I don't know. But that's what they said. The jewelry, that was after. And then people start getting very smart. But they were open there, like a seam, and they would sew it in there. And then hang the clothes out. They would do that. A lot of them would hide it in the mattress, tiny itty mattress. They let them open it. They'd go up.
Was your mother or any of your other family members, were they able to bring anything like that with them to hide?
No, we only had a little bottle. We had nothing. We were not a penny. Because I'm in the camps now, right? So when we went from Sumatra to Java and from Jakarta to Bandung, we were on the train, but the conductor came and said, my dad said, we have nothing. They had no idea what was going on yet, where we came from. No idea. You know? So we sat on the train. Nothing, nothing.
They didn't kick you off the train?
No, we didn't. You know? And we went to this Belmont and we had the rickshaw. My uncle paid for the rickshaw when we came to his house. We got nothing. Nothing. But we stayed the worst part was for my mom, because she was highly pregnant. So my younger brother was kind of a baby still. And then my mother was pregnant probably 5-6 months probably. She was, remember that. Yeah. But you know, when we were in the train and we had to go from Sumatra in the train where we were from Jakarta going, I remember that we were in the train that was used for animals. You know, those open trains. So everybody was, I'm confused now. This was still in Sumatra, where we got on the train going to another harbor. I don't know the harbor yet. They put me in another train. My dad saw his friend. He said, take her for safety. He thought it was safe. While the train was going, all of a sudden my dad realized I would probably never see her again. So while the train there pulled me out of the door of the window, that's what I remember. That was scary. They pulled me out of the window. They was leaving the perron. Yeah. That's things that stay with me.
When you were in Tangerang, was your brother Benjamin with you?
Yeah, Benny was still with us. Benny.
So Isaac and your father
They were in Bandung. We don't know whether they were dead or alive.
You had no contact?
No. And so Benny was still with us. It was his Tangerang. After Tangerang, we had to walk. It's all walk from one camp to another. 4 miles. From Tangerang we went to Tanah Tinggi. And there's where, because we were Jewish, there was a different way of that. We were put in a cell. But the strange part of it is my cousins were in a bigger, we didn't know where they were actually, but we was still in the camps, you know, same camp. So they put my sister, my mom, and my brother, Sonny, my brother Dave. We were in a cell, and Benny was in another. I don't know where he was, but was still in the same camp. So we were in a cell, and they locked the cell. So we're on the floor. We had a little tiny thing to pee in, with this opening like this big. So they closed it around, I think 4 or 5 o'clock. They closed it, locked all the cells, double lock, first by hand and then automatic. That was scary. You cannot go out. You don't have anything, no water, no nothing. You were on the floor. And that's an area, you know, there are a lot of earthquakes. That's we always hear about that. So you lock in the cellar. That is the prison, they call it. Like it's different.
And during this time when you were locked in with
Walking, you had to walk to them. Walk for miles. And if you can't keep up with it, they will give you with the gun. They bang you. There were sick people, nothing. Everybody had to walk.
from Tangerang.
Yeah, from Tangerang, miles to Tanatingi. And then we were in Tanatingi. They put us in that cell. We stayed there, I don't know how many months, but we didn't stay there, of course. I remember we had there, it was a huge camp. I mean, any nationality you can think of was in a camp. You know, Dutch, French, Hungarian, name it. Every nationality. That's where I got later on from an Hungarian ballet dancer. She was a ballet dancer. So that was fun. It was in another camp. But it was a lot of huge camp.
Did they treat Jewish prisoners differently to other
They had a treaty. And I didn't know that. I was told later on, or years later on, I was living here in Hemet actually, a Dutch government employee told me, you have been in the camps, this and that, this is what you should do, and this is what I got by the Holocaust thing and all that stuff. I didn't know anything about it because I wasn't aware of it, you know, nothing. I didn't know that they give you a pension, a little. They gave me like a little pension every 3 months, I think, from the Holocaust, from the Germans. Yeah. I didn't know that. I didn't know that. And later on, he said, "No, you should do that. Try that." So that's how I went. But I didn't know anything about it. And he told me, and also it's written, there were 2 camps, I think, Tangerang, Adak probably, and well, 2 camps that was very well known about the Holocaust survivors. That's what I later on hear. I didn't know that. But so I was in Tanatingi, and my brother had the measles. No, the pox.
Is Sonny?
No,
Benjamin?
Benny. The pox. Oh, that was horrible. The smallpox was terrible. I remember that. Oh my God, the poor guy. He had so much pain, no medicine, no nothing. That I remember very well. He was very sick. He was sick.
And did your mother or any of the adults have to do anything during the day?
My mother was always chosen by the Japanese to be the honcho. She had to take care of the camps wherever we were. But my brother was young. I took care of my brother. So I had to feed him, bathe him, everything. My mother didn't. I actually raised my little brother. Because my mom didn't do that.
And did she ever talk about what she had to do? What kind of things she did?
Yeah, she had to take care of 2 big bags. But that was in a later, I can tell you, in another camp where the Iraq Jews were. And my mom was the only one that could handle them. But that was in a later camp. So this is Tanatingi we were out. And we stayed there, Tanatingi, I don't remember how long. From Tanatini, we had to go back to Tangerang. Walk, go back to car. I got real sick there. I got dysentery over there. I got really sick. And, well, I'm still alive now. So, I got from Tangerang, Tanatini, Tangerang. We went to Adak was the latest camp. Then we went to Chideng. Chideng was a horrible camp. But from I think from Tangerang, I think we went to Chideng then. So that is huge. There's no camp. There's normal dwellings for people, but they just boarded all those houses were all people that the Japanese put in, so they confiscated those homes. So so many people were assigned to one house. And so my sister was still alive then, and from there, that was horrible. We suffered there a lot. We had Sonne. There was our camp commander. He was crazy. Every time when the moon was up, oh my God, everybody was so scared. He would dance around the trees. He would, and it doesn't matter whether you're a child or whatever, he would punish. You know, the funny part of it is he had a beautiful dog. He was a shepherd. And the shepherd always gave away when he was coming to inspect, because he stopped barking. So, oh my God, everybody, that's the best, of course. But he was so mean. He would always, in the middle of the night, get everybody out. Thousands of people stand there on the street. Hours. Calm. The sun was up. And this is tropic, Jakarta, very hot. People would faint, and he would punish for everything. He would punish if something doesn't go right. He would say, he would have dug a hole, everybody around, and throw the food in it. So he wouldn't give us food, he would throw the food in for punishment. And there was Chideng.
And was Chideng and Tangerang and Tanatingi, were the guards there the Haihos, or were these Japanese?
Oh no, there's all Japanese now. Yeah, all Japanese. The one that the Haiho, there was only in Bandung, in the kleine Lenko. But these are all Japanese soldiers now. Yeah. And in Tangerang, he would get it all of a sudden. He would get it in his head to punish people.
The Chideng?
Chideng, I mean. Stand up there for hours and hours. Count. It doesn't stop. Bow up. And then he would say, who's reading the Bible? And people that came forward, I remember one woman got slapped. I think her eye came out of her socket. And I was, oh my God. It was so scary. And I had a tendency when I'm scared, I start laughing. So people got mad at me. Because I didn't know what to do. I was scared, but I was laughing from, my nerve. I mean, so I got these people, stop it. The people, Japanese coming back and forth. Oh my God, that was terrible. I will never forget that. Always punish, punish. And Benny was still with us, my brother. He managed, even though this man was so mean, he managed to crawl under the fence because his property was right there. Huge home, huge yard. He managed to crawl underneath, go in on his yard to steal some food, some vegetables, but planting. He go, oh my God, he did it once. My mom said, I don't want you to do it ever again. You know, oh, he would be killed. Or the dog would have get him or whatever. But I always remember that.
And
Yeah.
at this time, I'm thinking in not just in Chideng, but perhaps in Tanatingi as well, and Tangerang too. But especially when you're in the cell in Tanatingi, right?
Tanatigi.
What is your mother saying to you, children? How is she saying things to you to try and what is
Yeah, we would come, I remember because my mom was with us. No, she was not, that was more in Aardijk and all, but she had to really hunt you up. But so she was still, my sister was still very small, you know. She was born right before we went into camp. My dad never saw her, ever.
where was she born?
In the house, in
In Palembang?
Bandung.
In
In
Bandung.
Bandung. Just before we went into the camps. So my dad never saw her ever. No pictures, no nothing. It's not. So it's like she never existed for him. I mean, it was terrible.
What do you remember of her?
For my sister, that she was gorgeous. She was. It's not because my sister. She was beautiful. She was very sweet. People really always liked her. Was very calm. And there was she was always very weak because she didn't have much food, right? So when we were in Chile, though she got really sick. She had a whooping cough but couldn't get out anymore. She couldn't get her breath. So she died in a hospital. It's not really a hospital. There's nothing there. And that's where she died. I had a feeling she was dying. I told my mom, she's going to die. You know? Yeah, she was too. Yeah. I remember when I called my mom, she died. My mom couldn't walk. She just collapsed. So they put her on the bicycle, the back of the bicycle, and brought her there. Where she went? Out to the hospital. No, that's what I remember. You couldn't walk. There was a shock.
Was it possible to have your sister buried?
Yeah, they buried her. They buried her close by there. I forgot the name. I forgot the name of the I don't know. And now I have the death certificate, so I don't know the name where she got buried. But then what happened? There were still dogs in the camps, you know, for people that used to live there. So first, that's where they took my, but before they took my brother, I had a horrible tropical infection. So it's like small, it goes deep, deep, deep. So I couldn't walk. So my brother made me a little cart from whatever wood and this and that he found. So put me in a cart and brought me to where the nurse was. So they kind of put it out, took all the pus out and everything. That's the last thing that my brother was with us. Because right after all that, he was 12 years old then. They took all the boys, round them up, and put them in a different part of the country. So they put them, Grogol, that was actually for people that were crazy. All those young boys there. Of course, it's terrible. Break your heart. After that, the Japanese said, okay, you deal with it, now we're going to do something else. So they rounded all the dogs up in the most gruesome way. I still see it. They threw them in this big truck, you know? That's my remember that. Sorry. Those dogs were crying and they were killing them and no, horrible. I will never forget that. My brother, I felt so sorry for that. While he was there, he got raped because he was with older men and all that. When he told me that, he kept it for years and years. Just before he died, he told me that. That's war. That's why I hate everything to do with war and weapons and guns. I remember that. But from there, after that, we had to another camp. We went to Adak. But you know, I think I missed one camp. I know I went to Kleine Lenkom, Tangerang, Tanatiki, Tangerang, Chideng. Yeah, after Chideng we went to Adak. Adak camp. So, my brother was gone. My sister died. I think my mom it just affected her so bad that she really couldn't handle it with us. She was just careless in a way. Yeah, I mean, I don't really blame her for it, but so we were in Adak. That's Alaska. Adak. We had to weave stuff. Later on, I taught us it was weaving to put baskets, made baskets to put us in, and they wanted to throw us in the ocean. That was the last what I heard. Whether it's true or not. But there was this American GI who was captured by the Japanese. I heard him on TV mentioning that also. That's what yeah. I don't know what if that's true, I mean what they were planning to do with it. But they say if you get so much work done, you get an extra piece of bread or something. Later on, people knowing what it was not for a good thing. No, nobody wanted to do it anymore, whether they got bread or not. There was Tanatigi.
Was that Adak or Tanatingi?
I mean the Adak. There was Adak. Yeah, Adak. There was the last con.
And what did it look like? Because you said Chideng was very, very big.
Huge. There was like homes like this, all, and they're just boarded everything up, but just a huge complex.
And what about Adak? Was it the same?
Adak was a camp. We had barracks in Adak. Yeah, Adak was a big camp. A lot of Jewish people. Yeah, I had one girlfriend, Fiji Pollock. That was the name, Fiji Pollock. Yeah, I remember she was tall and she had long hair, braided too, braided. There's where we almost got slaughtered. What happened was, we were there, so the war started getting to an end. But while we were there, we saw these planes. We thought, oh my God, something is going on. There was not American. There were American planes. So everybody running. I was sitting on a stoop there outside. All of a sudden, you see these huge planes coming, and then there was a lady. The house boarded to the camp was there. So what she did, she was taking a red, white, and blue flag. I just draped it over her the window. Okay, something is going on, right? So then they start dropping food packages, and the sad part of it is right to the end actually. I'm jumping too far now. But anyway, they're starting parachute. This old lady, well, we didn't know what was going on, so everybody ran on. So, yeah, this package fell on top of her. She went through the whole camp period. It was twins. That was so sad. But before we got there was the last camp, and we were how do you call it? They were all Japanese, Indonesians. So the Japanese lost. They said, okay. They were, and I have to say, they were very gracious when they lost. We owe our life to them at the end. So while we were in a camp, the Indonesian people, they were fighting for their independence with bambu runcing, we call it. It's like a spear. Like a spear, they were all around it. But Fiji Polak and I, we were not aware of that because the war was over. A lot of people went to their homes that are there, Fanny Cypher was one. Fanny Cypher went to home, and we wanted to visit Fanny Cypher. We didn't know actually how to get there, but she kind of told a little bit where it was. So Fietje Polak and I were walking for miles. I always saw these dangerous looking Indonesian people that were screaming, Merdeka! That means freedom, freedom. You know, with the machetes, so what is going on? So we were walking, we got that Fanny at our home. She said, what are you two doing? Get back. It's so dangerous now. We were not aware of it. So we got back. Oh, it was yelling and screaming. We saw all this around. By the camp door, they didn't want to open at first. Finally, I don't know how Fietje got the door open. She went in the open. Everybody was in the back by the well. No, waiting for what will happen, because what was happening, they were ready to kill us. All these Indonesians were all surrounded by them. Thousands of them. The guards that were there for us, they didn't do much good. They were, I think there were six. They were there. So the Japanese people that were still in the camps, they were the one that protected us. And it didn't only happen to us. I was reading another story. The same thing happened to them. Another camp. The Japanese saved our life. We would have been chopped. Chop.
Why did the Indonesians want to kill you?
They were fighting for their independence because it was a Dutch colony, yeah? And what the Japanese said to them, the Asians for Asians. Don't listen to the Dutch anymore. No Europeans. They were fighting for their independence. But the Dutch didn't want to give up, so it was a bloodbath. So the camp was over. You couldn't go anywhere. We had to stay in the camp for safety because the bersiap, they call it, the bersiap was on. So all these Indonesians were fighting for independence. I mean, that was murder. I saw so many dead people murdered.
Before you tell us more about that, can I ask a little bit more about Adek?
Adek.
You mentioned earlier, I think, that your mother was working with
The
Iraqi
Hansha.
Jews.
She was the Hansha.
And there was an Iraqi Jewish prisoner.
Yeah,
still?
but that was, I'm confused with that camp. That was, wait a minute. Yeah, that was Adek. So we had this big, how do you call, one, you can say a room, but a whole hallway, or whatever you call it. And they divided that. But the division didn't go all the way up, but just half. So the Iraq Jews at the one side and the other Jews at one side. So they didn't want to mingle. That's what they did, you know. But the Iraq Jews, oh my goodness, what the fighters are there. And also, they are so cunning, you know. They know how to make money no matter what. And so they always seem to have food. Nobody knows from where. Always gedekt. They had money and they had jewelry a lot. So one day the Kempi Thai came and inspected everything. So they went, all of a sudden it was raining eggs, boiled hard eggs, food, everything from over. because I want to get rid because the Japanese was infected on. So after the Kapitai left, they said, we want no food back. What food? No food. Everybody ate it. No, that's so funny. Well, would you believe the Japanese couldn't handle them? They asked my mom to do that. One time they boarded the whole thing up. Not too long, they would die, right? So they were tough. And my auntie was right with them by the Iraqis. It doesn't sound nice, Iraq Jews, but that's the way they did.
A question. You said back when you were in Kleine Lenkong, when they took your father and brother away, you were worried because you were mostly women and girls there, and your cousins were beautiful, and you mentioned obviously the thing that happened to your brother when he was taken away. He was attacked, raped, basically.
That was Benny.
Yeah.
That was in the camp. Yeah.
What I wanted to ask was, the rest of you, was there any
sexual
assault?
Yeah. No. We were afraid for my cousins because they were gorgeous girls. Yeah. And so, no, nothing happened with that. Just we're so thankful. Yeah. 8 girls, Yeah. We were always together.
And you mentioned this a little bit, but you were saying how after your sister died and your brother Benny was taken away, your mum kind of acted differently.
Yeah,
but I'm wondering, before that, what was she saying to you children? Did she try to keep you going, to keep your spirits up, or
no,
how did she interact with you during this time?
I can't remember that. No.
And how about you as children in the camps? What did you?
Well, we had a lot of families, Jewish families. Fincher Polak is one that I really remember. Another girl, I don't remember the name anymore because I was closest to Fincher. It's a strange situation, I cannot tell you how strange it is. I mean, I had 2 girlfriends, Fincher and the other girl, I forgot. But other than that, no, you don't. I didn't know. Not that I know of. But, people, I mean, you get so close to each other. But it's more taking care of yourself, staying alive, doing the things you have to do, and also, people can turn into animals.
Did you witness something like that?
Yeah. I mean, we had to, like water, for instance, it was a trickle. And we had to stand long for which camp was that? It could be Tangerang, it could be one of these camps. No water. And so everybody had to stand on a line. And they would just fuss and fight. And I was a bitch. As small as I was, I had to stand my ground. Because if you don't, my mom would get on my case. So I had to do it. And so Benny, my brother, everybody loved him. He would help everybody. No matter what. He was a good soul. But they will try to push you away to get their stuff. No. You have to fight. I would just stand on their foot just to get. So what?
Was there a kind of like a between prisoners a sense of kind of what was okay and what was not okay?
There was a friendship, yeah. Um, there were friends, you know. My mom had a few friends there, but they were adults. So I, I, I know that they had friends and always talking, and you know, I remember that they used to smoke. There was no cigarettes, so what they did, we had those big cherry trees there wasn't in the attic, and roll those leaves, and I don't know how that works, but that's they try to smoke that. Yeah, and it'd be so bad like that. So we got that. People would steal from each other. You would steal from each other.
And what would happen if somebody got caught stealing?
They fight. Yeah, they fight over the little things. In Kleine Winkel, in that first camp, my my sister was still a baby, and they had this carriage crib for a baby, and my mom was standing over the crib, and there was this girl, and she was the daughter of a rabbi. Her name was Sybil. Sybil Bahar. Sybil Bahar. Sybil and Ellen, two sisters. But she was so mad that my mom was standing over her dress got caught somewhere and ripped something or so. I mean, she slapped my mom, who was much older than she was, in the back. So turned around, mom slapped back, of course. So it was a whole Kampetai thing about this. It was, but the Japanese were involved because they were still in Kleine Lenko. Later on, she apologized, the girl, yeah. She was a young girl. Yeah, Bahar. And Sybil and Helen, Sybil and Helen, yeah. I remember that was in Kleine Lenko. See, people change, you know. I think what you normally don't do, you all of a sudden you change. It's survival instinct comes up. That's my thing right now. And believe me, whether you're a child or not, there's not, it's the same treatment. Same thing. You know? So they always say, yeah, but you were a kid. I suffered the same that you did. You know, we got the same punishment. So, no distinction there. Yeah. It's funny, huh? After all those 80 years, I still remember all that. It's 80 years now almost, isn't it? Yeah. That was Kleine Lenko. Yeah.
You mentioned in Kleine Langkong, you were talking about Miss Jackson, and she kind of kept people's spirits up. Was there anything like that in any of the other camps after that?
No, that I know of. One camp, there was, what I told you, there was this, she was Hungarian ballerina. So she gave us some ballerina lesson. That's when my first ballet struggle. That was fun. Yeah. I kept it up later after the war a little bit, you know. Yeah. But that's where she taught me. That was it. But
do you remember her name?
No, I forgot. I forgot. And then we had in Tongarong, we had an opera singer. Lily Kraus, her name was. Lily Kraus. And everybody was she was in the cell too. And she would sing. It was so quiet then, and she would sing a beautiful voice. I remember that. Yeah, so beautiful. So things like that, you know. Yeah, and then we had the wife of the Charter from Stockborg. I mean, he had a very high position. He was Dutch in Indonesia, and she was an American. He was Dutch. Oh, what a lady was that! Fantastic. She she was among us under the. She would always say, if you get a little bit rice full of kaft, the brown, you know, not quite. It's still on in the shell. Then you have to imagine that this is something nice, like some. She would always say that, you know. She would always, yeah. She had the one daughter, Tineke, who was also in the camps. Now I remember that. We were always, yeah. She was always trying to keep things up. Mrs. Starbuck, she was so not a lady. Everybody respected her. Yeah.
And which camp was that?
That was it could be in Tanatingi that I remember her. Yeah. Tanatingi.
And these kinds of things, whether it was the ballet lessons or the interactions with this woman, were they in any way organized by the camp, or was it just the
No.
prisoners left?
Nothing organized. It's all the prisoners. No, nobody organized something. I remember there was this Tangerang, there was this old Jewish lady, and she couldn't read, and she was sitting underneath the tree, you know, trying. When I saw that, I thought, oh no, that's not going to happen to me. I have to read. That gave me actually incentive to go just looking at her, you know. How old she was and still trying to, yeah, that was my Aussie, Ezekiel, her name, Ezekiel, yeah. I still see her in front of me. Ezekiel.
Any other memories come to you from your time in the camps?
Right now. I told you from Chidang, right? I think Chidang was for me probably from the camp period the worst. My brother was taken away and my sister died. I think that was for me the worst and the most scary one. They hang him, you know, the commander. He was considered a war criminal. He was terrible. Yeah. One day we were so hungry that they had in the shack food for pigs. Very hard, I don't know what it is. So the women broke it open. Took that, he couldn't bite in it, it was so hard. But there was just, try to do something with it. So when the Japanese found out that happened, no lunches. He was punished, no food. I remember that, yeah. There are bricks, hard as stone. I think what they do is you have to probably put it in water first. Hunger, I was so hungry. I could eat anything. Yeah, I remember that. Grass, no, there was this, you could find it here sometimes. It's like, it's small, it's like, I don't know the name of it, but that grows, and we would eat that. It's kind of soury, yeah. We'd eat that. There was one tree that tried, it was a lemon tree in the camp, so we always try to get the first to the young leaves that comes out, and that you eat one leaves long. That I remember. Yeah, I did that. I was so hungry.
You also mentioned, I think in Tangerang, that you had, because of the bed bugs, you were bleeding.
Ah, you see here?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Was that in all of the camps, or did it
No,
get
that
better?
was in Tangerang. That was in. I have to think. Okay. There was not in Adak. There was in Tangerang. Tangerang, because Danatingi, we went into the cell. But in Tangerang, I think we had like, we were on bricks, of bamboo. And there was an upper level and a lower level. We were in the upper level. And I used to remember that people down would get so mad at me because I couldn't sleep and they couldn't sleep, you know, the pain. And I was still peeing in my bed and I couldn't hold my pee, you know. So sometimes they woke up. That happened. I couldn't get up at night. That was horrible. Oh my God. Later on, oh, I have to think what is his name now. Joop and with a mother and two boys. I remember that. He had a Fontaine. That was his name. Joop Fontaine and his brother and his mom were underneath us. Oh my God. Yeah. Remember that.
And you mentioned I think in Chideng, there was some kind of infirmary or place where there could be medical care.
Yeah, a so-called hospital.
Did
Yeah.
you ever, in any of the camps, were you ever treated for anything?
No. No. I was never in a hospital or anything. No. I got sick there with my dysentery, but no, it's not good. If you see the lavatories, they were horrible. Especially in, well, they were in Klein Lenkel was terrible. In Tangerang were like a big open trench, open. So you just, if you sit there, it was dirty, of course, right? And the wind blows to it. Ah, horrible. Just, yeah, it was not very, very hygienic. It was not. Of course, people get very sick in the tropics with all the flies and all that. Oh my God, it was it was terrible. Yeah.
Other than your sister, do you remember other people dying in the camps?
Yes, Mrs. Cypher, one that I remember. The mother of Fanny Cypher that went to her home, you know, that we tried to visit. Her mom died there. I remember seeing her before she died. You don't think she would die, but she had beriberi, very bad, you know, beriberi, poor thing. She was older. Next thing you know, Where's Mrs. Sanford? Yeah, she died. Yeah. And then there was in Tangerine, we also had chores to do. I was in charge. I had to clean an officer's room. I had to do that. And then after that, there was a huge, they had to go out of the camp. They grow their vegetables and all that. So we worked there, and then was Martha here? No, they work outside there. Everybody had to work. One day I stole an eggplant, put it in my pocket, but I knew that they were looking for everything you can. So yeah, they caught me. So I could slap around and all that stuff because it wasn't a big eggplant. That was last time I never stole again. That was it. There was a Tangerine. We had to go out, work in a yard. Probably that's why I like plants, eh? Yeah, but else, oh my God. Yeah, you have chores to do. It was not always playing. Mm-mm. You had chores to do. You had to work in the field. I had to take care of my brother that I literally raised. That's what I had to do. So I was a child with probably older sense of something at the time. Now it's the other way around. No. But that's true, you get so much responsibility. Responsibility, that's number one. Yeah. My mom, responsibility, you are responsible. That's the way we grew up, always. That was one of what I can remember. Yeah, and then the brush-up, of course, after everything.
Let's take a short break there and we can come back and talk about that. Well, we were talking before we took a break. You were telling us about your camp memories. Any last memories from the camp before we move on to what happened after?
Which camp did I end it with? Huh?
Adek.
Adek. That was the last camp. That's where we got liberated. It was by the Gurkhas were there. Oh, they're so fantastic. The Gurkhas. Do you know them? As a military Gurkhas?
Can you explain who they are?
They are smaller. I think they come from a part by the Himalayas, but I'm not quite sure. But I know they're in the British Army. So I think wasn't it a British colony somewhere? Yeah. So the best soldiers you can have, and so courageous. Yeah, they saved their life. Very, especially with the bishop, the Gurkhas were there.
So what happened? You mentioned that the Japanese helped during that time as well. So can you explain to us first how Adek was liberated?
Adek was liberated by English, because we had the Americans flew over, but the English were there. Yeah, the English. We had English soldiers. Oh yes, and then I remember it was in Adek was liberation. And the English had this huge ship in the harbor, and so all the children were invited to go to that ship. And every child got one sailor that was taken care of. So I love mine. And he was so sweet. I always used to go on a swing, you know. So there was this huge swing on the boat, and he would take me on his knees, and we would swing way up high, and breath as white as snow. Oh my goodness. I will never forget the beautiful big slice like that. Yeah, they gave us food, they gave us so much. And so every child got everything, a whole bag full of stuff. I don't know where it was on a boat, I think. I left my bag somewhere and it was stolen. So no, everything was gone. So I went from all these from bag to bag. Did you see my? Of course, nobody will give it. Yeah, that was the worst thing. All my goodies, chewing gum. We never knew what it was.
When the Gurkhas came to your camp, was there combat between the Japanese and the Gurkhas?
Yes, there were, because they were fighting in the. There was in the bishop then, but that was not by the camp. The Gurkhas were actually everywhere, but they protected us. They protected us. Like the English soldiers were there also. We had a lot of Sikhs. We had a lot of Sikhs, and Sikhs were fine. I don't. There were also Sikhs and another, all from India, Indian soldiers. Yeah, they would protected us also.
So I'm not sure I understand when the kind of Indonesian independence movement was happening and there was a threat to you in the camp. Why was it the Gurkhas or the Japanese that helped?
The first was the Japanese because they were in the camp, so they were
Before the Gurkhas got there.
Yeah. The Gurkhas were in the neighborhoods, you know, not exactly in the camp. But the Bishop stayed for a long time. It was dangerous to go to your home if you had a home there. We had nothing because we fled. So we didn't know where my dad was or was he still alive or whatever. We were there. So the Red Cross came, and through the Red Cross they found my brother and my dad. So my dad managed to go on a train even though it was dangerous. People got murdered but he needed to be with us. And so we saw each other for the first time there.
Do you remember that?
Huh?
Do you remember that?
You know, I remember that. And though it's not a very nice remembrance really, because it was like a stranger. I was my dad, but he didn't do anything to me. And I remember my mom was like that, the same thing. And around us were women that had the same they acted the same way. I mean, a lot of divorces after that, you know? Yeah. But I cannot say that we were all so happy. No, not at all. That's honest. I cannot say we were jumping up and down seeing my dad. No, not at all. In the first place, my mom said, "What are you doing here? It's too dangerous to come." So, you know, after a while, they get used to each other. And he went back to Bandung. He went back to Bandung to find he had to kind of get work, try to finish, and a place to stay. But so there was no place to stay. So what it is that all the people that put us in a school again. In a school, that's where they took care of us for a while until, yeah.
And when did you reunite with Isaac and Benjamin?
In that school after, when we were all there, and Benny came later. Yeah, Benny came later. It's so funny, that part to me is a little bit fuzzy because he came from another part of the country. He came later, much later, because we were there, and there had to be a guard also for us while we were there.
Was this in Jakarta still, or was this in
No,
Bandung?
this is Bandung. Yeah, Bandung. We didn't know Benny was still in Jakarta because he was in a different camp. I don't remember the time that we saw him again. I don't remember that part. It didn't register. Yeah. But with my dad, that was really funny. Not funny, but strange. It was like stranger to us. But to me at least, and my little brother, didn't know him. Because he was kind of a baby when he left. So, a lot of that did a lot of damage also after the camp in a relationship between families. A lot of it. I know we love each other, but somehow it didn't do a whole lot of good. No. Because everybody lived a different life. You can say, yeah, but you go together again, but it doesn't work that way that easy. It's just strange. We had to get used to my dad, for instance, So finally, when it was safe enough that we all got homes and came kind of together a little bit, yeah.
So you mentioned when your dad had come from Bandung to visit you for the first time in Jakarta, that it was dangerous for him to go on a train. Was it dangerous when you went from Jakarta to Bandung?
It was dangerous still, yeah. Yeah. They were all still, all this Bushap was still going on, We were all still military all over the place. Yeah. When we were in the school, when they settled us first before we got assigned a home from somebody, we had a guard there also, always walking around. And a certain area was closed from the city. You couldn't go there. It was too dangerous. So it was closed off. I don't know how they call it now. I forgot it, but it was closed off. It was too dangerous. Later on, it was better when they got their independence. The Dutch was stupid to fight it anyway. They don't belong there in the first place. That's the way I look at it. They could have saved a lot of blood and misery. But I'm not in politics.
Did you see violence?
Yes, all the time. Yes, all the time. All the time something happened. So that was already after the war. Then there was this guy that he was an old military guy who couldn't stand the fact that Holland was giving up Indonesia. His name was Westerling. So he was fighting. So he was fighting still the Indonesian people, murdering this and that. Instead of, he wanted to hold on to it. The man alone. How many deaths of that? The wrestling. It's famous. It's more the other word for famous. You know what I'm saying? A lot of people killed for nothing. For nothing. Because of him. Because there were a lot of people that didn't agree with the Dutch to give up Indonesia, which they won't belong there anyway. So they kind of form a group, a guerrilla group, we might have called it now, fighting against it, but everybody else was suffering. We were in school, for instance, the so-called school I told you about. All of a sudden, fights will break loose, shooting all over. The nuns would call us, go home, go home. When the bullets were flying, we were all sending home. We had to walk home. I mean, the craziest things. Yeah.
Was the neighborhood you were living in Bandung, was it in Indonesian? Was it mixed?
Dutch,
Was it
all Dutch.
all Dutch?
Yeah, all Dutch. Later on, everybody left, of course, and then it became all Indonesian. Yeah.
You mentioned that your mother had a Dutch father, but on her mother's side was Indonesian or part Indonesian.
I think so. We don't know much about her, you know. The thing is, she has a French name. Sure, do you want to see it?
Well, later
Oh,
we'll see.
yeah. Hamad de Labartunaire. That is in the French. So I don't know how to, but it's an official paper that I found. So I don't know how that, but my kids and I would, you know, you grow up and you put things together. I mean, I think a part of her must be Indonesian. Probably a French father because of the name or something, but there must be an Indonesian part, that Asian. Because when we were in the camps, there was like what the Japanese, here if you're born in America, you're automatically American, right? But not in Holland, not that. At the time, I don't know now. So, and also, they go by how many percentage bloodline do you have? So I remember we was in Tangerang. We were all standing there. A Japs came, I don't know what they did. So they came in, there was the test done. So they said, my mom, he said that she could be off. She could go out of the camp if she wanted to. But they said, your children, no, in. So percentage of blood, Asian blood, because they were saying Asian for Asians, you know? So you'd have to, I don't know how that worked anyway. But because of my granddad, my father too, so we were more, my son said 1/8 or 1 something. He said something like that. I don't know exactly. But no, my mom said, I'm not going out to camp and leave my children in the camp, nowhere. It's not going to do that. But they go by bloodline. Yeah. How many percentage do you have of this and that and all that? You know, I don't know if they still do it. I have no clue. But that's the way they did it. Yeah.
And do you remember I mean, you mentioned that it calmed down at the time of independence in Indonesia. That the obviously
Slowly, the murdering back and forth, but safe it was not really, really safe. So, because we were British subject, my dad said, I'm not going to change my nationality my whole life from, so I don't want to change it. So we were in Indonesia, so we can't find a job anymore because or you had to be in Indonesia. So no, I'm not going to do that. And so we had a friend, later he became a husband, mind you, but his brother was in a high position in the Dutch New Guinea. He was like, how do you compare it now? He was secretaris gouverneur. So he was the secretary of the governor in Indonesia. So, because my dad was British subject, it was difficult for him to get in the Dutch because it was close. But I think what it was to help us, because when my husband, before he married me, he was married, we were all in this huge home. I think 50 people were living. If everybody got a room after the camp. So he got married. So he had all the papers already to go to Australia. Everything. So all of a sudden there was this shooting going on again. They shoot left and right. And so she had her son from her first marriage. She lost her husband. The ship was torpedoed by the Jap also. He began to cry, so she got up and had him in it. And while she was holding him, the stray bullet went all over the place. I don't know how many. Finally, her son got just on the side, and then it got into her chest. So it was all this small, this big. So it was in her. So she was laying, so my dad helped her, and my mom, what they could do. I mean, she was laying in front of everybody on the floor, bleeding to death actually. Nobody can do anything. My dad was trying to kind of the bleeding stop. How do you stop this big hole? Finally, her husband got artery. The doctor was living just across from us. So he refused to come. He was afraid. He said, even if I have to drag you, you come and be with my wife. But it's nothing they couldn't do. The ambulance came and she died in the ambulance. But this is all in front of us. All the bleeding, all the pain, the yelling. She was screaming from pain. And I think because of that, my parents were right there, that his brother was trying to do us a favor, helping us to get out of Indonesia. It was very dangerous. My dad was afraid for me, actually, yeah. So, our lives are crazy. So then we went to New Guinea, but yeah, I mean, there she was. Isn't that sad? They were just married, 8 months. Yeah, very sad. Nice ones. Beautiful girl. I used to visit her all the time, It was just around the room.
What was her name?
Her name was Tina. Her mom was American. Her father was Dutch.
Do you know her maiden name?
Beck, I think it was. Beck. Yeah, that's Tina Beck. Yeah, if I'm not mistaken. I have to remember, I'm almost 90.
And can you tell us a bit about how you got to Dutch New Guinea and what happened there?
How did it happen? Yeah, so finally but my father, they had to prove that my father had a job there, not to, keep your hand up. We were not that way, never raised that way. So there was this Dutch guy that was a supervision over they call it the mess. It's like a cafeteria actually, mess, yeah. So they contacted the boys in Indonesia. Then my brother signed up for it also. Young boys to go to New Guinea to open up and because of that, their families would get entrance to because you couldn't get into New Guinea; it was closed. So they could have get their family over. Contract boys, they call it. Data boys, they call it. So my brother signed up to get us to New Guinea, but they didn't fulfill the promises. They failed it. You know, so those boys worked so hard, open up, especially in the south, Kainama, you know, where they were still chopping heads off. Till today, they still do that. So they opened up, so there was not a nice promise. They didn't keep their promise. And this mess, what I told you that, this Dutchman was working there, but he wanted to quit. I think he wanted to go back to Holland. So that was an opening. So that was a chance for my dad, if he wanted to do, supervise, take care of all the food and our cooking and all that stuff from the data boys. They were also in Biak, where we were. So that's why we could go to New Guinea.
And what was the name of the place you lived in New
Of
Guinea?
where?
What was the name of the town where you lived in New Guinea?
I live in Biak. I live in Manokwari. I live in Biak, Manokwari, Hollandia. Hollandia is more bigger, you know, it's more open, it's more things going on. Manokwari, not so much. Biak didn't have anything. It was all, you cannot plant that just, it's all, how do you call that? Coral. White coral. It's horrible. Real ice. Yeah. And that's how we lived there. That was the first place where we in Biak.
And did you go to work at this time?
Oh
or?
no, I'm not allowed to work. I tell you, it's so funny you mentioned that. There was this, I had to work taking care of all the cooking and all that. That's why I probably get up still early, making all hundreds of sandwiches for the boys, you know. And then my mom got very ill, so she ended up in the hospital. Everything was on me. I was 17 years old, 18. I had to take care of all the cooking from all the people and hundreds of boys eating. There was no light in the morning, so I would wake up the servants there with the candle, and then we would have the candlelight, make up bread and all that. Whew. That was in dark, you know, a bit scary. And so that's what I did. A lot of hard work. And then there was this doctor. He was Dr. van der Hoeven. He was living right behind us. So he says, I will train you to be a lab work. And he said, I will train you. Oh no, I'm not allowed to do that. No, my dad said, no, I don't want it. The director of the KLM came home and said, you know, your daughter speaks English. I would love to have her as a stewardess. No. I thought I was not allowed to be anywhere. I was not allowed to work. Then I went on my own to an office, government, and they hired me. I had to go back and say, oh, I'm sorry, my dad didn't want me. I was so embarrassing.
So what was your dad's plan for you?
I was our friends would always say, you know what, you should have a key, lock your daughter up and have a key in your pocket. There's no all this man around, no, it's all man. No man around my daughter. It's nothing. That was, I had beautiful chances.
You weren't allowed to date anyone?
No, not at all. So I worked in the house, cooking, cleaning, all that stuff. Yeah.
But at a certain point you got married.
I was 19 when I got married. Well, I knew Adi because we were with an accident with his wife and all that. And so, yeah, I got married at about to lose nothing, right? So I got married. So I left Biak and went to Monoquari first. And from Monoquari, we live in Hollandia. Yeah, that was I was born there, my son. Yeah. So that was not a very exciting life, you know.
How was Hollandia at that time?
Hollandia was bigger, you know, it was more open, a whole lot more of government from the Holland. And every 3 years, if you stay there, you had to go back to Holland. It was a must because they didn't want, because there was, you know, for your health reasons and climate for the Dutch people, for them, some people couldn't perspire, for instance. They had problems. So, because Adi was working in the Dutch government, so we had to go every 3 years. You have to go. You cannot stay. So every year you go back to Holland, then you come back again. 6 months paid vacation. Isn't that wonderful?
And was that your first time in Holland? The first
Yes.
time?
I was 19 years old. Yeah. Didn't know anything. I was always kept under the thumb by my dad and mother. And here I come in a world that oh my God, what is this? You know, it was difficult for me to adjust. You know, it was very difficult.
And which city were you in?
Which, Voorburg. It was the outskirts of Den Haag. Yeah. But his parents were there. So we stayed there for 6 months and then we had to go back again. Go every 2 years. But we did. It wasn't really fun, now because you have to pack everything. You cannot leave your home. You have to clean everything up, pack everything. And then in 1962, when we couldn't go back, it was Indonesia's got a hold of that. Given by the Kennedys, they had I remember that. I think Robert Kennedy, he went to Bali and they had a conference. And somehow they had a treaty because a whole lot of people that lived in Holland had problems finding a good home. They still do right till now. And so there was a treaty. You sponsor the Dutch going to America, I give you New Guinea. That's how it went. It wasn't not fair because Indonesia had nothing to do with New Guinea. Completely different people. You know, it doesn't even come close to Indonesia. It's closer to Australia.
Did the people in New Guinea want to be connected to Indonesia?
There was a part, but not all of it. There is a part with the Dutch, you mean? A part of it. Which part is it now? Let me think. Sorrow. I will get that. A part of it. But they wanted actually their own independence, you know, but they were not ready yet because they were so.
Was there anything like the kind of independence movement or what you had seen in Indonesia before?
I'm not there. No. There were, it's, I forgot the name. In one place, they were a little bit more Maori, but not that. But now, I, they are murdered by the Indonesian people because now, we still hear from people that are still having contact with them. My friends in Holland, it's horrible. It's horrible. Now they're suffering. Yeah, they want their own independence. And there are different languages spoken up there. It's different people. The South is different than when you go to Hollandia, for instance. People look different over there. They're darker and you have beautiful features. Beautiful. But the skin color is darker than them. They don't want to be one. No. Yeah, there's a lot of murder going on right now. And what they did, the Indonesian people, they took all the criminals from Indonesia and, yeah, that's what happened. So beautiful country, The beaches when we were there, untouched, so gorgeous, so beautiful. Was you still people walking with the how do you call it, loinon, or what is that? Just a little
loincloth?
Yeah. Yeah. We were still walking around like that. Funny how thinking goes.
And did you leave after New Guinea became part of Indonesia or before?
After
Did you leave after Dutch New Guinea became Indonesia, or did you leave before that happened?
Oh no, before. Everybody had to get out. They did a little bit fighting. I think it was in the southern part, but not. No. They gave it away. And that was in 1962. We were in Holland at the time. And so all our stuff was still there. So everything had to be shipped over. Now all the Dutch had to leave. All the Dutch had to leave. Yeah, it was terrible. And then where do you have no housing for them?
And at this point, I know your dad was a British citizen, but were you a Dutch citizens now?
I was the Dutch and yeah.
Dutch and British?
Yeah. Both of them.
Was there any thought in the family of going back to Singapore or going to elsewhere, to Britain?
No, nothing. Because we have no, right now, we don't have any connection there at all. I know our family there, I know for sure. But don't know anything about it.
And tell us a little bit about your life in Holland, in the Netherlands, from 1962 on.
Truthfully, I didn't like to live there. That's but I had to do it because I had no other way, right? So I made the best out of it. But I like it here better, I mean, I never liked Holland. To live, I like to visit, all my friends are still there. But at the time, they were so narrow-minded. Now it's different, of course, because Ari was about 60 years ago there, when I was born, and I was just married then. I thought, they're so narrow-minded at that time.
In what way?
And I tell you, I came to Holland and I had a treatment, uh, you, how do you call those? Like a lamp. I had to go to a treatment. And it was the Green Cross, not the Red Cross, it was the Green Cross. So I came now, and well, this is a Dutch, you would think, educated. I said, oh my God, where do you learn to speak Dutch? I said, what? Where? In Indonesia? We had school, we had Dutch, this spoke Dutch, we don't speak Indonesian. No, narrow-minded. Don't you think if you have a colony that you know a little bit more? I would think. I just couldn't believe that, That's stupid.
In Holland, or even actually in New Guinea as well, or even Indonesia after the war, did you or any of the family celebrate any Jewish traditions at all?
But my aunt, we went to my aunt, up there. We had a synagogue just near us because there was just in a home. They just made it a synagogue at the time. There was nothing there.
Where was this?
Indonesia, in Bandung, yeah. And so my dad was working in the medical, and he can just take off and have. It's different. You can. So my uncle would. Oh yes, every roast, Sabbath, whatever. He went there, and he would say, George, George. I'm like,
Oh, quick pause. You were telling us about the synagogue in Bandung.
Okay, my uncle went on a regular basis, he's very religious. Although my dad did pray a lot before the war, I still have his, I know he has, it was red. I still have his, how do you call that, that go over your shoulders? And I still have that. When he prayed, he used to take it over. There's a name for it. Yeah, I still have that. But anyway, he would say, well, George, I have to pray for you because you end up in hell. So I would say, God will forgive me. I'm taking care of his children.
Did you ever go to the synagogue?
Yeah, I didn't. We were not. It's my family, my cousins and so. It's funny in a way, and in a way I kind of think, what a waste. We were not raised in that, and it's probably because of the war, Even my cousins and all, none. They're all married Christian boys, and they know nothing about it. It's a waste of a tradition, I think. Don't you think so? I think so. I think so. Yeah. But here we are. So when there was a certain, my aunt would make the little cookies and this and that, and I would go over. But really celebrating, no, we did not.
And can you talk about when your daughter was born?
My daughter was born in Den Haag, July the 25th, 1964. Yeah, Danielle. You want to know about the birth? That was horrible because they induced my pregnancy. I felt like a cow that was slaughtered. I'm not kidding you. That's when my daughter was born. that was horrible. They induced me a week before, even 2 weeks. Yeah, got all the shots and all the nothing happened. The doctor was going on vacation. This is all. But shots. Finally, nothing happened. So I said, you know what? Just lay down. So he just cut me open. Took a scissors, stuck in bed. Leave me alone. Went back. Oh my God, I have never had so much pain in my life. I said, no more. There was, to use of pregnancy is bad. And then she finally was born. She didn't cry. I thought, oh my God, I went through all that and this happened. I thought, finally, she slept there. I had the midwife, because he was on vacation, the doctor. She was furious how that did happen to me. I mean, oh my goodness. No, it was so horrible. But then, she's my beautiful daughter.
So how was life with 2 children? Were you in Den Haag then? You were living in Den Haag?
I went not Den Haag, Voorburg.
Voorburg.
I went Voorburg. Voorburg. Yeah, Voorburg was the only place that now we moved from. Voorburg was a good place.
And how was life with 2 children and a husband in Holland?
You have to adjust, the whole thing. But you know, I think I'm a person that I have to do it. Okay, I do it. I mean, if you have to do something, it doesn't make sense to kind of hiccup all the time and, you just do it. And so that was fun. Schools were good there though, I have to say. I had a high school over there, and then when he came here, he had his, he went to PCC, and after, both of them had the master's degree here, so they did good, hard work. Nobody gave us a penny. We did it by ourselves.
Now, how did you come to move to California?
Artie didn't want to stay in Holland because he thought it was so small, too many people. The political, he was afraid it was socialistic too much. He didn't want that. But I told him, I can work very hard, but you're not used to it. And for you, it will be very difficult. Not for me. I can adjust. So when we just came here, right away, he got killed in an accident. So a year right after, we came here the 1975. So he died 19 November 1976. Yeah, so there I was. No experience in working anywhere. I was not allowed. I was not allowed to drive. I said, oh, you know what? I'm doing it. I don't care what you do. I'm going to work. I cleaned homes to get the money and pay my own lessons. Right after he died, there I was. If I didn't have a driver's license, what happened to me? I don't want to ask everybody to help me. I to do it myself. Yeah, that's how I started. That was hard. That was very hard. He had a pension from Indonesia, but they stopped. So there was no money coming in for 9 months for me. I I had the rent to pay. I had 2 children in school. Oh my God, I don't know how I made it.
Did you have any friends or anyone to help?
I never asked, never, never. Not my brother. I never asked a penny. We worked hard, you know. Ari had 2 jobs, college, had jobs, 2 jobs. Went to Thrifty, worked there. Danielle was young as she was. She worked, and this is how we did it together. And then Ari, what he made, he gave it to me. We paid the rent, because I didn't make but $2.50 an hour. That's what I made. It's not much. But we had to sign a paper in Rotterdam. Okay, you can go to America, but you never fall back on the government. We had to sign that. You too? Yeah. We never did. Not 1 penny. So when he died, I know there's no social security, of course. So they said to me, you know, we can give you coupons. I said, no, that reminds me too much of the war. Give me a job. I cannot show you school papers, but I can work. I can show you that. But we never held our hands up. Never. Never, never, never. My kids pay their school off, everything. Nothing the government. I'm so proud of them, you know? Yeah, they did it. Working, Danielle was have a family and night shifts and worked to it and got a master's in nursing.
Did you ever, have you ever been back to Indonesia to visit?
I will never want to go back. The memories I have there are not the most interesting. I will never go back there. I have nothing to look for there, you know? No. All I remember there is camp and nasty and be careful for this, be careful for that. Fear. I've never had there are a lot of people that want to go back and look at, what are you looking for? I mean, you don't find things the way it were anyway. I'm like this. When I go through a period of to do that, okay, when I start a new one, I focus on what I have to do. What I have to do now.
Do you think everything that you went through in your childhood in the camps and during the war and after the war as well, with all the violence there, do you think that had any impact on you psychologically?
Well, probably they call me some crazy. No, that impact me in this way. The camps, I don't look at as bitter. No, I'm not bitter. I don't hate Japanese people, not at all. I see it as a learning process. I learned from it a lot. I don't think I would have gotten through this life here if I wasn't hardened at that time. That's the way I look. I also learned to appreciate the smallest little thing. I don't want a big home or this. No, I'm not, nothing of that kind. So I learned, yeah, in that sense, I learned a lot from it, you know. I learned to have good friendship. There, Annie, my husband, I have other friends in Holland. You learn to cherish it, right? Don't take things for granted. It can be taken away in a second. That's what and so I learn a lot from it. And bitter? No, I'm not bitter at all. Not bitter. It doesn't make. What good does it do to you to make have bitter feelings about the Japanese people? It's not their fault. It's the governments, it's the top, but not the people. I mean, they cannot help it. I had a friend who was Japanese. No more. Yeah, you cannot be bitter. I'm not bitter.
Do you draw any parallels between what you experienced and the treatment of other groups, like in terms of racism and persecution against other groups? When you think about your own experiences, do you draw any parallels with any other?
I think it's different. I don't think you can draw a parallel. Situations are different, and then where you are is different. I know the people that in Europe went through a terrible time, but the Germans, a completely different. Yeah, they went a horrible time. What they did to them.
After the war, did you ever experience, either in Indonesia, New Guinea, Holland, or in the US, did you ever experience anti-Semitism?
Not anti-Semitism. Well, in New Guinea actually. You're right. I forgot about. They always were calling my dad names. The dirty so and so, dirty so and so. One time, Benny was over, my brother from Kainama going to Biak. I was so furious. Yeah, they did discriminate us because of that. And he said, "What is wrong?" I said, "Well, this and this is going on. They have these horrible words for that and for us, dirty all that stuff. Okay, where does it come from?" So he did. He went up there. I don't know what he did. They never said a word anymore.
These were neighbors, or who were they?
Yeah, our neighbors. It's all small, It's Biak, it's a few, 3 girls from the whole island Biak that I know of. It was fun, in a way. But
Were these Dutch people who were being
Dutch Indonesian people, they call it. Yeah. Now, it was a horrible time. Among jealousy. What they did to us was really, really, till the end, it was horrible. Because they were so jealous, Mom. That was, it's envy, So, that's why hatred is all based on, I think. And so, because my dad had his job, it's hard work. You just didn't go to the market and buy stuff. No, you have to wait 6 months, 6 weeks before a boat comes from Australia, plus from Holland, to give you fresh food, vegetables, and all that. So there was this huge freezer. It used to be from the American Army, so you can imagine how big that is. So they would stack our food because we had to feed the boys and all the other people. So it's hard to get by. It cost so much money. What they did, they unplugged all the electricity. Everything had to be turned. Things like that, It's horrible. Horrible. I hated it there.
During the war in Indonesia, thinking about that time, what do you attribute your survival to?
I always say, and that sounds probably a bit query, I'm not a churchgoer, okay? I'm not, but I'm still a believer. And I'm not ashamed to say that. I, in my heart, always believe very strong that there's protection. Very strong. I would have been dead many times. I'm not kidding you. And I feel that I got my guardian angels around me. Other than that, I don't know. You know? There were many times that I think, oh my God, I could have been killed doing there. Of I've been, like Finche and I were going to this, where they were fighting with their machetes open and, you know, attacking trains and all that. Yeah. But I don't know. I just believe. I believe strong. But I don't like to go to church. I think it's not of it. It's not mine.
I'm wondering, when was the first time after the camps that you started to feel safe again?
After the camps, a whole long time, because there was the bishop going on. My nerve was so affected by it that every little, no, we would sit outside, inside, every little noise that I would jump up and I would just shake. I mean, I was a nerve wreck. And should I tell you something? My friend, Helen, was also in the camps. So we were sitting out, there was hearing, we were sitting outside in the yard of my sons. And all of a sudden we heard crack, 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 crack. They were pulling the trash can. And both of us stood up and said, they're shooting. That's how it's. My son looked at me, what's wrong with you? This is the trash can. That's how it's in your system.
Did you feel safe at all in Indonesia, or only after you left?
No, Indonesia don't feel safe. No. It was still a very, I don't know now, but I haven't been gone. I've been gone for over 50 years now. No more than that. 50 years I'm here now. Almost 50 years. Yeah, a long time. No, I would never want to go back. Never. Not bad memories. I saw so many killings, people dead, and that's why I hate guns and everything to do with it, you know. It's just, I'll never touch a gun. Never. It's just, it's scary. I'm afraid for knives, for instance. You know? I mean, my husband had this beautiful, from his dad, who was an officer, Dutch officer from the Marine, a sable. He wanted to hang it in the hallway. I said, no. That thing goes out or I go out. I have such a hated everything that have to do with that. It's probably because of what I went through when I was young. I don't know.
I wanted to ask, thinking, one, we're in an election year in the United States. There's a war going on in Ukraine, a war in Gaza, and many other things. What are your thoughts about the world today?
I think the first thing what happened, what they did, those, how do you call this? On 7 October was that? Okay, well it started, what they did was horrible. In the kibbutz, murdering all those people. But on the other hand, what they're doing now It's just as bad. All innocent kids got killed for nothing. They don't know what's going on. You know, it's always the older people that kind of mess things around. That's the way I look at it. And do I feel safe? Tell you the truth, I always keep saying the Third World War is on your doorstep. That's how I feel. And I can be, you know, I'm not a psychic, but that's the way I feel. You know? Everywhere in the world there's something going on. And how long can I still keep it kind of on the wraps? Or, you know, slow down? There come a point that's gonna burst. And I see it coming. But don't you see kind of, no, that's my point of view. Yeah. That's, I honestly see that. My son said, "You're very too pessimistic." I said, "You know why? You never went to war. You don't know what war is. And I'm glad you don't, and I hope you'd never have to. But the way it goes now, I don't know. I'm not very optimistic, to tell you the truth, about the situation, you know. I hope I'm wrong, but, you know, dying and killing each other, I mean, what for? I don't see it. You know, why, like what the Ukrainians, I mean, I feel bad for them. And I feel like they're letting them down. Every time I said, I cannot watch it anymore. Those poor people. Who's helping them? You know, I feel like, I feel what they have to feel. It's terrible. Terrible, terrible. Nobody, they're probably helping them in the back door somewhere. I hope they do. But for now, oh my God, they are courageous. Yeah, it's terrible.
Do you have any message for future generations of people who might watch this interview?
I think my message is to be open, to talk about solutions. You know, not to let it explode. Don't grab to your gun or whatever. That doesn't solve the problem. You don't learn from it. You hurt yourself by it. That's the way I look at it. You know, be open. Take other people's, what they think of the situations. You know, compromises. Nowadays, it's my way or no way around. No, I'm not crazy, probably. They call me crazy. But that's where I look at it, you know. I never bought my son toys, gun, or military toys. Never. I don't want them. My husband would get so mad at me. He would say, "You are raising a sissy." I said, "No. Better, well, is that what you think? Better a living sissy than a dead sissy. You don't have to be well, that's the way I look at it. I don't like that. I don't like them fighting. I think I saw enough bad, you know, if I see this what I cannot get out of my head. There was this, in Gaza, this dad holding his kid, that kid in his arms, and what's terrible? What's so good about that? I don't know. Like I said, I don't know anything about politics. It's just my feeling. You know, it's my feeling. And the way it looks, oh my God. I don't know. I hope for the younger people that it get better, but it doesn't look that way. Mm-mm.
Let's take a short break and we'll come back and do the photographs and those things.
About what, though?
Yeah.
Oh, you want to see that?
Sarah, please tell us what is shown here.
This show that my mother's, I think it was from her baptism. I think so. It looks like it. Protestant they were. But this is from the orphanage where she was, as far as I know. And that's how it shows you. Well, yeah, this is from where she is baptized. I see it here. And it was the 11th January. No, that's where she was baptized. And where she was born. So this is her name, Johanna Hendrika Louise. Geboren when she was born the 3rd of October 1906. Her father's name is Cornelis de Haan. Her mother's name is, now it comes, Louisa Hamar de Labatunière. And they are married, gehuwd lieden. So they are married now. My French is coming.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Okay, tell us about this document.
This is from my dad, from the register of the British certificate of extract from register of British.
Of birth.
Birth? Oh, birth, sorry. So, Singapore, this is from my dad. And Isaac Rahamin, that is my granddad's name, so his dad. Occupation of my granddad was a broker, and the nationality was Jew. And my grandmother's name was Sarah Baruch. Baruch was her maiden name, also Jewish. All from Singapore.
Thank you. Please tell us about this document.
This is a document that shows you that after the war, the latest camp where we were in Adek.
This is your father. Sure.
Oh wait, I'm confused. Yeah, I'm sorry. Sorry.
That's okay. Not a
Can you
problem.
erase that?
No, just
Yeah.
keep talking. It's fine.
Oh, okay. From my dad, Joseph George, where he was nationality Brit. He was 47 years old then. The number here is his camp number, his latest camp. He was working for the police as an interpreter. So I know that. This is by this showing you get a ration like food, and so that's the
And who produced this document?
government. Oh, this is the Red Cross, I think. Rode. Red Cross. Yeah.
Thank you.
So, this one.
And this is the back of the document.
Yes, that's the back, and it shows you the dates that they received some stuff, food. I cannot read it anymore because it's so small. It's hard to read. I cannot read this typing, for instance, what it says. It's very hard. But this is, they wrote everything in the back up. Here are all the dates, which you can see. But I cannot translate that anymore.
Thank you. And this document?
It's the same that says here, Rapwi. Rapwi is easy to read that. But this is also for what you get, or, but this is when we come out of the ADE camp. And this was in Rio Straat 26 in Bandung. There was this school building where we were housed in. There was this, Rio Straat 26. She, I don't know, Frau, she's female. And again, my dad's talk means interpreter. Yeah, it's from my mom. And in the back.
Thank you. And this is the back.
Yeah, so there are all the dates, finance, the dates, if you owe money or they lend you money, it said how much it costs. But this is a bit hard to uncipher. I know this is what it is. Yeah, you can see all that, but I don't know exactly. Yeah, in the new house where you move, you have to tell them. But this is all the around, the mom from Adek, and that was probably from where my dad came from. That other one, yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, this is my piece of paper, also from the rabbi. My name is Anna, Sarah, Louisa. This is when we were living at the Sumaterstraat. So we moved from the Rio Straat to the house where everybody gets gets to sign a home, a place to stay after the war. So yeah, my dad was interpreter, and he was at the camp of the 15th battalion. At my age, I was 10 years old there, and that's what it is.
And tell me, what does the acronym RAPWI, what does that mean?
The RAPWI, that's that's where it's not like a store. It's kind of like a store, but they, in the military you have the store and they give the how do you call
like
that?
Like a depot?
Yeah, that's something. Yeah.
All right.
Something like that. Yeah. And this, we moved there.
Thank you. Tell us, you were talking about some accident.
No, there's where Adi's wife got killed in that home where we were. And Sumatra said 35. Yeah, this is the same, But of course, this is from my parents because I was 10 years old. So that's what they all wrote down.
It's the back of the document we were just
10 years old.
Thank you.
Wow.
Sarah, can you tell us about this document that we were looking at?
Yeah, this is een akte van overlijden. Dit is wat is een akte? A certificate from the passing of my sister in Chideng camp, where she was 2 years old. There was a camp where she died in Chideng. Yeah. That's my sister. Yeah. Yeah.
Thank you. Tell us what you know about this document.
I don't know what this is actually. It's in English, but it's a register
of birth.
Registration from my dad, I think, Singapore. My Rahamin, that is his brother's name, that I know. Isaac Rahamin, that's my granddad's name.
It looks like it's a register of your father's birth.
Jews. You think so? I don't know.
Not sure.
I know it said there were Jews here, and I don't know. It's not very clear, huh?
Was your father born in 1885?
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it says 1885 here.
Yeah. It's probably, they probably had to pay for it.
Mhm.
And then
Like a copy.
that's what,
Yeah.
like a receipt thing?
Mm-hmm.
Doesn't it look like a receipt? Yeah. That's all I know of. Yeah, I don't know much about this. This is all I know.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Tell us, what are we looking at here? What is this?
You're looking at this my camp book that they give me on my birthday in Tongarong. And this is made by a lady. And I'll show you. And this is our washing place here. This is a huge tub, you can call it. And I would be there always washing and doing things. I would stand in this water up my feet up here, up. So I got a whole lot of wounds because of that dirty water all the time. And they said here in Dutch, if you are looking for Sarah and you screaming for her, you look over the whole field. You don't have to look far, because if you look for her, just go to the washing place and you find her. So this is where we have to wash and get or drink water and all that stuff. Yeah.
And what's on the other side?
This is just a little nothing. I mean, she just wrote anything. It had nothing much really. It has rhyming and all, Yeah. It's all about where to get the vegetables and all that stuff. So it's just to fill the book up. That's all we had in the camps.
Can you do close-ups of either side?
Yeah. Do you want to get the left side first?
Yeah, do you want me to move it over?
Yeah.
She does the drawing there. I forgot her name. Yeah. Was actually a sister of Mrs. Fontaine. The neighbors that were staying underneath me, that I give so much problems.
So there was Joop Fontaine.
Yeah.
And there, you're right.
He had to hide Dutch government, Joop
towards you.
Fontaine. Family Fontaine, yeah.
Thank you. Sarah, please tell us who's in this photograph.
This is my dad when he was younger. This Joseph, George, and Rahamin.
And do you know roughly how old he was when this was taken?
He was, according to what I've been told, around probably 1820. I don't know if that's true.
And where would this have been taken?
Singapore? Mm-hmm. Singapore.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
Please tell us about this photo.
This photo shows you that there's my Auntie Bella. She's the sister of my dad, who also, of course, lived in Singapore. But I don't know a whole lot of her. But I kept that picture because it's given to me. That's why I kept it. Yeah.
And do you know roughly when it might have been taken?
No, not at all. It doesn't say there probably, huh? No.
Thank you. And who's in this photograph?
That's my granddad. That's the father of my father. So this is Isaac Rahamin, who's the broker in Singapore.
Thank you. Tell us about who this is.
That is my grandmother, Sarah Baruch, married to Isaac Rahamin, my grandmother Sarah. And I've been told that her roots are from England, but I'm not quite sure about that. I don't know exactly. So, also lived in Singapore, had a whole bunch of kids. Yeah. She had a big family, enormous. So that's, and my father was actually a lovey-dovey, my dad.
Thank you.
Bye.
Who's in this photo?
This picture shows my mother, Johanna de Haan, married, of course, to my dad, Joseph George.
And when do you think this photo was taken, roughly?
That must have been taken in the 50s, after the camp period. Yeah, around 50.
And
49, 50.
and where would that have been?
In Bandung.
Thank you. And who is this?
Now my dad, this is Joseph George Rahamin. That is his real name, Rahamin. They changed it to Raymond, but that had to do with jobs, if that's what I've been told. But he's pictured also in Bandung. I remember it was at the Da Costa Straat. There's where we used to live, in Bandung. My dad.
And would this have been the same time as this
Same
photo?
period, yeah.
Yeah.
In the 50s, yeah.
Thank you.
49, 50, that kind of thing.
And who is in this
This
photo?
is my older brother, Isaac Cornelis Raymond. You know, it does make confusing, the Rahamin and the Raymond. But that's not, that's my uncle's fault and my dad's fault. So, but he goes then by the name Raymond, not Rahamin.
And
There's Isaac.
roughly how old was he in this photo?
That was in the 50s also, was, no idea. I don't
And
know
would this have been taken in Indonesia or
Yeah,
or
Indonesia.
not New Guinea?
He's never been in New Guinea. Benny of New Guinea.
Okay.
I love Benny.
And who is this?
There's my second brother, Benjamin Alex Joseph Rahamin. And he's my favorite brother. Yeah, so he's my second brother. I don't know when this is taken.
After the war or?
After the war, yes. Yeah. He went, this in Holland taken. This in Holland, yeah.
Thank you. And who is this?
This is my youngest brother, David Edward. And this picture also is taken in Holland. He was very young, I think he was around in Holland. So he must have been around in the 20s probably. Yeah, that's what I think. Yeah, he's my younger brother.
Thank you.
You are.
Tell us about who is in this photo.
Oh, this is me, taken in Biak. We were on the beach swimming, and yeah, the photo is not very clear or nice, but that was in Biak, at the beach there. Everything is beach there anyway. So that was hot weather. That's me. I mean, I was there 18 years old. Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah, well, I think
Tell us about this photo.
Yeah, now this is my married photo. This is Adrie Paul, my husband. And we were married in New Guinea, in Biak. I think it was 1953. I think so. 1953. I was 19 years old there. So, 19. There was not much.
Thank you. And tell us about this photograph.
This is taken the front of my cousin's home in Holland. What's the place there? I forgot the place where they live. But this is taken home. This is my dad, my husband, my mother, me. My dad, my husband, my mother, my son, and me. Ari, Peter, and that's me.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
And tell us about this photo.
This is my beautiful daughter with her 2 children. Her oldest son is Caden, that's a boy, and her second one is Kieran. It's that little girl there. It's my daughter and the 2 children. And my pride and joy. Yeah. Isn't she beautiful?
So, but before we finish the interview, are there any last things you want to say? We wanted to say thank you for doing such a
Oh,
wonderful
I thank
interview.
you for coming. I mean, honestly. And listening to me. I don't...
Are there any last words or thoughts you want to say?
No, I was so happy that you were here and you listening to me. Most get bored when they hear me talk, but
So, thank you very much.
thank you. Thanks knowing you both.
Thank you.
Yeah.